Memphis track boy, let's go.
My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing.
Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com, joined by football analyst William Gardner. We just got done doing our Top Buffs countdown. That was a lot of fun. And now, William, the Buffaloes are reconvening in Boulder as we record this. They're getting together, Sunday meeting, and then they're going to practice, it sounds like tomorrow, and we'll get a chance to talk to Coach Prime at his press conference tomorrow in Boulder. How are you feeling going into this camp? Has that countdown gotten you excited for this?
Yeah, I think we're all ready. I think this summer's silliness has gotten to its high point and ready to get back in pads and get this thing going again. Get Coach Primus back, and I think it's going to be the season that really proves that Coach Prime is an elite coach, and I think we're going to get 9 wins or more and really keep this thing rolling.
Well, yeah, Coach Prime is back in Boulder, his long-awaited, much-anticipated return to Boulder. So great to see. And he went out to Tampa Bay to check in on Jaylen Sanders before coming back to Boulder. And Shiloh's loving life out there in Tampa Bay. Have you seen any of the social media stuff with him? He's working the drive-through at KFC, and somebody rolled up in the drive-through with a Tampa Bay Jaylen Sanders jersey. And just to see Shiloh's joy in signing that jersey was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing stuff. That's great. And I'm happy for him and hope he makes that team and has a great rookie season. Now,
Shedeur, it's early in camp, but it sure doesn't feel like he's getting a fair shake there. And that was my worry, William. We talked about it. How many times did we talk about that since he got drafted by Cleveland, of like, they don't deserve him, and this is you trying to be hopeful, but not really being able to muster up that hopefulness.
Well, it doesn't make any sense to me that any coach wouldn't play the best player at any position, regardless of who got drafted where. That's just cutting your own feet off for no reason. It's just stupid. So I don't know. He just has to wait and see. He just has to keep doing what he does and being a great player, and his shot will come, whether it's there or somewhere else. If they don't want to give him a fair shot, then it would be kind of fun if he went somewhere else and became a really top quarterback. So I don't know what to say about all that. I don't get too much into it because there's nothing I can do about it, and
right.
Don't want to follow the Browns.
Yeah, who was it? Was it Tennessee that just lost their starting quarterback to an injury? It's like, Cleveland, can you just trade him somewhere where he can actually get a fair shot? I guess that's kind of where I'm headed with this thing right now.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know what's fair and what's not. I don't know what goes on in their meetings and what they're to each other or saying about him or whatever. It's always hard to know. We don't know what the other side of that story is. So I don't know. He just, all you can do is just like any other job. It's just go in and do your best, and what, make your own way, one way or the other.
Yeah. So we finished up that Top Buffs Countdown series. It's always fun. This year was more fun, definitely, because of the depth. Like, it was like every segment you were getting excited, whereas you kind of had to work yourself up into that excitement in previous lists. Did you have any final takeaways as you were kind of reflecting on just that whole journey that we went? Because we talked for hours about these guys.
Well, you mentioned how each episode had people in it that we were excited about, and it's like, even including the first one, which were guys that didn't make the top 40, and those guys are going to play and have a big impact on the season. That's how good they are, and that's how much depth there is. So, I think maybe not the obvious star power at the top from last year, but I think some guys who could play up to that level. And a lot more guys who really, I think, we're approaching that point where we're going to have more and more draftable guys, and that's going to make a big difference on the playing field, I guess. And so I think the talent at most positions is pretty clear. And now it comes down to the coaching and, a little bit of good fortune with injuries. A couple spots we'll need. So, and they need to develop some guys, some younger guys at some positions. but I think it looks really good. I don't, hopefully people came away from those that whole top 40 list feeling pretty good about the season and realizing that there's more talent here than people think.
A lot of content out there if you have not gone through that whole series on BuffStampede.com. We've got it on our YouTube channel. We've got it on the podcast servers that host Buff Stampede podcast. So a lot of different ways you can kind of catch up with that. And, that I feel like is a good way to just kind of break down this roster as we get into camp. Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. Is your business looking for financial guidance and support, but not yet big enough to hire a full-time CFO? Well, we have a solution for you. Hiring a fractional CFO who can work with your business on a part-time basis. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full-time hire. And here's the best part. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win-win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with us. For more information or to set up a meeting, please visit MacaulayCapital.com. That's MCCAULEY Capital.com. William, everybody that listens to our podcast knows that we love the Hungry Toad. They've been bringing a taste of England to Boulder since 1991. At the Hungry Toad, they serve up hearty homemade fare from their scratch kitchen paired with a brilliant selection of British beers. They're the perfect spot for friends and family to gather, relax, and enjoy the warm, welcoming atmosphere. If you're mad for football, so are they. Whether it's the American gridiron or European footy, they proudly support CU football and CU women's soccer. The Hungry Toad, Boulder's local pub that's not on Pearl Street. Head to 2543 Broadway in Boulder.
And you know what? Hans Serrata don't take no whoopings either. He hands them out. How's that for a second?
I love it. I love it. The Buffaloes extended an offer to a 2026 in-state prospect, an offensive lineman from Loveland, goes to Thompson Valley High School, lives in the same neighborhood that I lived in before I moved to Johnstown. Josiah Manu, interesting there, he's committed to San Jose State right now, but Colorado found out about him, and Coach Gunnar White said, "Hey, I apologize. We didn't find out about you till now." A starter since his freshman year there at Thompson Valley, and they're coming off a state championship. So I don't know if you've had a chance to watch his huddle or his film yet. But
he looks great. I mean, I know I think he mentioned he's played everywhere, every position on the line.
Yeah.
He played a lot of defensive line. His film looks great. He comes off the ball. He's really aggressive and goes to the whistle and mauls guys. I mean, I think that's what he said. Coach White said he's a killer, which you got to have those guys. I think he's probably more ultimately going to wind up at a guard position interior somewhere. But he's certainly your prototype guard sort of guy, 6'5", 295, something like that, going into his senior year of high school. So he's going to be a big dude. He's going to knock people around. I think he's probably going to pick up a lot of steam in his recruitment this year as the season goes on and teams start to see him. I think Thompson Valley is a little bit off the beaten path. A lot of scouts come to the Front Range, but they're probably not getting to every single spot and more Denver oriented and Highlands Ranch and such. It's where the big schools are. So I don't know. I think he's going to get seen more when that video gets out. People are going to be all over him.
And it does feel like a world away from Highlands Ranch now because of I-25 traffic. I mean, it's just, It gets worse and worse every year. It's like you got to plan your whole day around getting up there,
Right. Yeah, you can't, if you're going to visit multiple schools in a day, you got to do, one segment in the Denver south side of Denver area and then another day in the northern. And then you're going to go up to like Fort Collins or Thompson Valley or something like that, maybe even another day. So, you got to see, you're not going to stumble upon these guys accidentally. You're going to have to do your homework.
And that's why we do these podcasts over Zoom, because you're down in the Denver Tech Center. I'm in Johnstown. It does feel like a little world apart. We get together when we need to, but it takes some work from both of us, right? I mean, that's kind of an example of it.
No, yeah, you got to plan things out when you're trying to get around. Like the whole Front Range has become one big city almost. So it takes a while to get places.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I hope we can get back to Thompson Valley. That's where we saw Zane D'Souza this past season. His team was really struggling that day. Hopefully we can get back to Thompson Valley this fall and get a chance to watch Josiah Manu in person, because I enjoy those trips, especially with the linemen with you, because you're breaking things down throughout the game, and I enjoy that a lot. Another offensive lineman the Buffs might get here pretty soon is from Florida, also a 2026 recruit, and that's Ben Gula. He took a visit to Colorado. He also visited UCF in June, and he texted me this weekend that he feels Colorado has jumped to the front now after his conversation with Coach Prime. And that's one of the great things about having Coach Prime back in Boulder and feeling a little bit better that he's able to kind of make those connections. And so they might be adding a new lineman. Gula told me he hasn't finalized it. He was going to have brunch with his mom and football coach, but he kind of had August 1st in mind. So that would be this coming week if he does stick to that date.
Yeah, and he's a guy. He's picked between us and UCF, so conference foe. He's also got he's got offers from Indiana, Maryland, Texas A&M, USF. So he's been seen, and I think he's really going to blow up this year, especially because he's by all accounts is really blowing things up in camps in Florida. And camps in Florida are going to be much more attended by coaches and see a lot better competition. He's been pretty dominant, but watching his film, he's a legit prospect at either tackle, and I think he could play left tackle at this spot because he moves really well and he's got that length, and he's another guy that's aggressive and likes to put people on the ground. So 6'5", 290 right now, and a lot of room to grow. So he'd be an outstanding prospect. I hope people don't see 3 stars and think, well, this guy's not that good, because that's not an accurate portrayal.
Yeah, I that's great. There's so much film out there now. I feel like that it allows fans to kind of make their own impressions. And Gula was somebody that was just kind of under the radar. Where is he from? He's originally from New York, I believe, right? And he moved down to Florida his sophomore year, transferred schools. So it's been kind of a progression for him. And I know he deserves to be higher ranked than he is. And O-line is one of those positions that I worry a little less on the rankings if you see what you like on film.
Yeah, and there's so many players in Florida, it's easy to get lost in the mix there. And let me see, he's a 3-star, but so he's rated an 86. I think after this camp season and his senior year, that's going to go up, because he certainly is a much better player than what that ranking is.
So you take both those guys?
Oh yeah. I think they're both. I think they're. Although it's interesting, they're the same size guy, that they're kind of different players, and Manu is more that road grader guard type of guy, and Gula is much more athletic and able to move and could play either one of your tackle spots. So I'd take them both, and it's you're going to wind up with a couple years down the road, a couple of 6'5", 310, 315 pound guys that can push people around. So neither one of them is a stretch by any means.
And I do, again, kind of hinting here, I like CU's chances with both those guys. And you've got this young pipeline. If you can keep them around going forward and get them to stay patient, Chauncey Gooden and Carday Smith. I mean, you've got and Yaya Atia, you've got some real pieces there for the future.
And I thought it was interesting with Manu that he mentioned being Tongan, being a Pacific Islander, and that's why he had originally committed to San Jose State. I don't think he's going to go to San Jose State, but it does show the importance to those kids, of some kind of poly connection. So, Joe and whoever else we got on staff can't hurt with that either.
And T.I. Umu Case commits to Washington yesterday from Cherry Creek. Cherry Creek, we never really mentioned him a whole lot on this podcast because it seemed like he was heading out of state for pretty much from the beginning of this process.
Yeah, and as long as he's not going to a conference rival, let him. He'll go where he goes, and I think we have made a big impression on him. So if he does transfer down the road, looking back here,
Arden Walker, man, that's a good example right there.
Yeah. After he gets drafted next year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we got one other thing before we get into the fan-generated topics that are going to get you ready for camp. I got to ask you, William, are we getting close to having to build just a room in the Champion Center for Travis Hunter's hardware? Because he was named the Big 12 Male Athlete of the Year. You thought these awards maybe were done because he's now with the Jacksonville Jaguars and doing well with them, but these awards keep rolling in, and I don't know how they're going to fit all of them in Legacy Hall, because that's not a huge space. You got people walking through there. You can't block traffic.
They're going to have to redesign the whole damn thing, because that room is not going to be big enough. And what I'd like us to be is, to get back to where we were in the 90s, when every single year we got several guys drafted in the first round and every other round, and so at 1 minute, Michael Westbrook's the best player we've ever seen. The next minute, it's another guy, and so we need to get back to that point. Not that Travis Hunter will ever be just a guy, right? But so this year, we're going to see other guys get those kinds of awards and stuff, and maybe not anybody will have as many as he will. But that's what Coach Prime is building here, as a program where we have a Travis Hunter type season from somebody every year. But
yeah, to a lesser extent, right? I mean, Travis Hunter maybe was the most decorated football season, and by the way, I'm not going to go down. There's one award that it still kind of sticks in my craw. How was he not the Thorpe Award winner in 2024?
Politics, I don't know. Again, it's I you never know what's going on in the voting or whatever, and what the reason for that was. Some kind of a grudge against Coach Prime, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But it's like this award, Big 12 Male Athlete of the Year, kind of like, who else was it going to be?
Yeah, I know, right? All right. We got some great topics from fans. I asked them, what do you want us to talk about leading up to camp? And we got some good stuff here to generate discussion. Chas Klein posted depth chart ! So you can go back to our Top Bus voting countdown, and you can kind of see how we see things playing out. I want to parlay this, William, into kind of a conversation about the most intriguing depth chart battles that we see going into preseason camp. And based on the Top Bus countdown, you were highest on DeKalen Taylor. I was highest on Dallin Hayden, running back. So that's an intriguing battle there. I don't think Mike Welch is too far behind in that.
Yeah.
Any other intriguing battles in your mind in terms of based on that Top Bus countdown?
Well, I think the quarterback is an interesting question. I think ultimately, at least early in the season, Caden Salter is going to win that out just on experience. And it presents an interesting issue to Shermer, in that they're very different quarterbacks and what they're going to do with the offense with each one of those guys. But I think he needs to find ways to get Julian Lewis in the game early in the season to get him experience if he's not the starter, and either way it goes, I think we got a quality third or second guy, depending on injury or whatever else, in Ryan Staub. So that's going to be an interesting room, I think.
Who's that? What'd you just mention?
Ryan Staub. Ryan.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's really good. He's a great quarterback.
And future Hall of Famer, probably. I'm guessing. But I think the running back room. It's interesting. What kind of a role will they find for Simeon Price? I think he gives you a big basher on there, and I guess to me, I want to see if Dallin Hayden lives up to what the coaching staff has been saying, and maybe the most intriguing room is the wide receivers, because who's going to bubble to the top of that group, because there's so much talent there. My thoughts on Sincere Brown and Hakeem Williams were kind of not conversational, controversial with some people. But I was like, no, I'm not saying the guy sucks. I'm just saying there's a lot of dang good players in that room.
Right. Yeah, I think Cam Michael was the guy for you, and Sincere Brown was the guy for me to be the fourth. receiver behind Jaylen Miller, Omarion Miller, and Joseph Williams. And then right tackle, I mean, that's obviously been one of the more intriguing conversations we have had this offseason. There's 3 or 4 guys that could win that job. We went with Philip Houston being pretty high, but Larry Johnson III was not too far behind him on our lists.
Well, and I think Mani showed enough to be in the loop
Yep.
for this summer, and I think Andre Roy is a guy who's played a lot of offensive tackle at this level, and frankly, I still say the whole dang thing is open except for left tackle. Like that left guard spot. Zy Chrysler's got the front runner, I think, for the right guard. Left guard, most people are thinking Xavier Hill, but there's some other guys that are going to make some noise in that situation too. I think Cooper Lovelace is a guy that people are missing on. Could make some noise at the center spot. I know he's been doing some practicing there, and it's just really it's hard to look at this group and see how they're going to fall out when all's said and done. You have to see, with Philip Houston, is he improved over last year, and did the injury hold him back or whatever? But there's a lot of talent in that room, and I guess it really also comes down to those 3 coaches and how well they work together and get that talent to play together and develop.
So on offense, to recap, you and I agree, Salter 1, Juju 2. We're kind of split on the running backs, but that's going to be a rotation anyway. Talked about receiver. Tight end, Savell Smalls was 1, and Zach Atkins was number 2 on both of our lists. So that's our depth chart there. And you kind of broke down the O-line. Defensively, the question is, I think Amari McNeil, Anquan Barnes, and Jaheim Otis are their 3 best defensive linemen going into camp.
Interior, yeah.
But yeah, you're going to need guys like Torian Carter and some other guys. Tavian Coleman was high on our list. Tawfiq Thomas is going to rest Barnes and Otis at times, and so I think that it's going to be more rotation there. You're talking more depth chart. You're talking about defensive line. You're probably going 6-7 deep just in terms of rotation.
Yeah. All 7 of those upperclassmen are guys you can put on the field, Lightfoot being the one you didn't mention, I think. And then, we're going to have to rebuild that probably next year, but that's not an issue this year. And I think we've got a lot of guys who can really play at that position, and so to be able to go to third string of guys, many of whom, I don't know, any one of those 7 could play at any team in this conference.
Yeah. At edge, we both had Arden Walker and Samson Okunlola highest on our list. And then we talked during that Top Buffs countdown about how Keaton Wade is going to get heavy reps and be a real situational weapon for Colorado this year. And then you got the wild cards, Quincy Wiggins and London Merritt as well. I think those are kind of the main players at that position.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what Livingston does with Keaton Wade now that he knows what he's got. As opposed to coming off injuries last year and not really becoming part of the mix until halfway through the season, So,
yeah.
And then Webb Walker, I think, is a question mark depending on how he comes back from the cancer issue. And I still think if Wiggins is what we were hearing in spring, he could be the surprise of the whole damn team at every position.
Yeah, that's the fun part of this is, right, as we get into camp, there's going to be some guys that emerge that we thought maybe could, or got some guys that maybe we didn't even think could. And that's like RJ Johnson was not really on my radar going into spring ball. Right. And now we got him as one of our top 2 corners in a program coached by Deion Sanders and Kevin Mathis. So,
yeah, it's like in the last year going into the season, we had a couple of offensive linemen that we expected to be big time players, and at least one of them was gone by game 3, so who knows? You never know.
Yeah. At linebacker, we had Martavius French and Reginald Hughes on the top of our pecking order. Nickelback, there was no controversy there. Preston Hodge. I mentioned RJ Johnson, obviously DJ McKinney at cornerback. And then Carter Stoutmeyer and Tawfiq Bayard are the guys we expect to start at safety, with Ben Finiseth, getting some actual meaningful game reps on defense, I feel like, this year.
Yeah, I think there's some players in that safety group that could back them up and give some good playing time if needed too, and the same with some guys as backups at corner. So I think we ought to be okay at defensive back. At all 5 positions, I guess I call it, and then what we really need is some guys to develop at linebacker and give us some depth there. Well, frankly, we need French and Hughes to live up to what we had last year too. So that's maybe the biggest question mark on the team.
Yeah. D Howe 888 asks for a deep dive into the running game. Now, he wasn't very specific here. What do you think he wants to know as far as that goes?
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's asking for us to dive into what we think that Shermer and this year's staff will do, or does he want a more of a theoretical approach to the run game? So I don't really know. I think I still go back to last year, and there was a stretch of about 3 games towards the middle of the season where we really committed to the run game. We were pretty darn good at it, And so what really worked for us last year was some misdirection stuff. Pulling guards and tackles and getting some looking for some angles in the run game. I think that in terms of run philosophy, if you're going to be a run first team, then you need to do some things really well. If you want to be a more balanced team, you can set up the run by using the pass, and then assist the pass by using the run. So I think we have enough talent on the offensive line to be pretty good up there. I'm not sure if, it remains to be seen if we will be or not. But I think if you have play calling and formations that assist that offensive line, that you can really do some stuff. So I would like to see more of the traps and the counters and the split zones. And quite frankly, our offensive line looked really good on just straight inside, outside zone, more inside zone, I would say. Straight inside zone looked really good. So, I think if you line up and you have to stick with it. You have to give it a shot, so like you can't run 2 plays in the first series and we didn't get a first down. Screw it. We're out of here. Throw the ball 50 times. So you got to stick with it. You got to scheme your stuff to what your guys can do. I think we got some running backs that could really make some things happen. And sometimes, with a running back, you got to see which one gets in the groove of the game, so you got to get who's more than 5 damn carries a game. Nobody can, nobody that ever played running back in the history of the damn game is going to show anything on 5 carries a game. That's just silly. So they either have to commit. Well, they can't either or. They have to commit to it, and have those offensive linemen coming off the ball with the intent. And I think the RPO with Salter gives them some options there to keep defense honest and such as that. But that also, the RPO doesn't let you really come off the ball and try to knock people on their backside. And when we're talking about an offensive line this year, where just about everybody up there, like we're going to have a couple of guards that are likely going to be 6'5" to 6'7" and 330 or bigger, so we just need to knock people on their backsides and make things happen. So I don't know what really he meant by a deep dive. I mean, if everybody wants to get together with a whiteboard, I'll dive into the philosophy and theory of it. But
I'm really anxious to see what Marshall Faulk, how he handles rotations at that position, because this is going back maybe 4 or 5 running backs coaches at the University of Colorado. There's so many times in a game where, and again, I'm not on the sideline and I'm not in the pulse of kind of the team, but there's clearly a running back that's hot, and then the defense will have, either give up points or have like a long drive against them, and they still don't go back to that hot hand on the next drive. Have you noticed that at all? It's one of those things where it's like, man, you got to just feed that hot hand. And I don't feel like Colorado's done a great job of that through different coaching staffs. And Marshall Faulk was a warrior back in his day, and he knows that it's different now, but I feel like he's going to have a better feel for that. I'm anxious to see.
Well, I think the last time we really stayed with the hot hand was that 2020 short season. Where we kept giving the ball to Broussard because it worked, for Christ's sakes, and for that one season in the last 20 years of Colorado football, they didn't stop doing what worked, I think the last 2 years, we didn't have faith in the running game, and so we tried a few times, and if it didn't have great success, then we went back to what was the strength of that offense, which was Shedeur and the wide receivers. And not the dumbest idea ever, it worked, right? But I think this year we have to open it up a little bit more on the running game. What you really got to do is trust it. And like you said, a guy gets a hot hand. I don't really, I'm not a running backs expert or anything else, but it is certainly clear to me, that guys get a hot, we call lots of things the hot hand of the getting in the flow of the game or whatever. I don't know why that is. I think Marshall Faulk could probably explain that pretty well. I never coached or played the damn position, so I don't know why one guy all of a sudden gets hot and then you keep handing the ball and they go and they.
It's like basketball. You just get in a groove, Yeah. It's like you get the hot hand, Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be one guy, in the infamous great Nebraska beatdown of 2001. Chris Brown was the obvious guy. But, man, Bobby Purify had a hell of a game, too. And then I can't remember who the number 3 was. He had a good game as well. A game like that where the offensive line just has the number of the defense, you can hand it off to me and you and it'll work. But
was Brian Calhoun on that team?
Yes, I think that's who it was.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But that's what they need to do is it really what it comes down to is emphasis from the coach and from the play caller, and so positions, give them some double type formations, give them some H-back, with some crossing, blocking and get different angles and things like that. Get a fullback out there every now and then, and mix it up a little bit. And don't just call the same damn run play every time so they know what's coming.
Yeah. We got another question about the offense and Hog 11 post. Anything you can discern about the offensive scheme in QB1? Thank you. In terms of offensive scheme, I still think we're going to see primarily 10 personnel. Isn't that your expectation? But, I mean, if Savell and Zach Atkins are doing their thing, I think we're going to see more versatility, more balance offensively, but you're still primarily going to have 4 receivers on the field is what I'm thinking.
I don't know. I don't think – I think we're going to be – I think it's premature to try to answer this question. I think we don't know until they come out into practice and we start to see a little bit of what Shermer's putting out there. But I think we got 2 legit tight ends. I think they'll both be pretty decent blockers this year. So I think that we can go, I don't know that four wide receivers is the best way for us to go, quite frankly, but it's a lot of talent. I think if you do it every time, then you put the defense on notice. That's what you're going to do, and they're going to adjust to it. So I think if you go to 11, put a tight end out there, and then maybe go to 2 tight ends and really make them. They come out on defense looking for 4 receivers, and you got 2 tight ends, and you're running the ball. They're going to be in trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they've sent out a nickel package or something like that. So. I think we mix it up. I think we'll see that 4 receiver sometimes, but I think there's a reason why they brought Zach Atkins in, and I think that Savell Smalls also did well enough in spring for them to have confidence in putting a tight end out there. And again, I'd like to see somebody in the fullback spot as a lead blocker from time to time. So I don't know what they're going to do. I expect that Salter is going to wind up being the starter, and they're going to try to put him on the edge and put pressure on the defense to contain him. And so I would expect that RPO to be a big part of the game, but a real RPO, not like we've seen in the last 2 years, where for the most part it was fairly certain that Shedeur wasn't going to run.
An RP foe, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. You just invented a new term, man. It'll go viral. Yeah.
Rob _O @ posted impressions of the change in the strength and conditioning staff. So we've talked a ton about Andrew Swayze. I feel like he's been discussed more than anything we've done on this show all summer long.
I kind of team up in every podcast for some reason.
Yeah. The proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, it's all great, and I genuinely like how he has dealt with this program this offseason. Are they the stronger team in the second half this fall? That's what a strength and conditioning staff is judged on.
and injuries. And I think one thing that stands out to me is like, the before and after photos of some of these offensive linemen this summer are stunning, are stop a bison in their tracks, so to speak, throw a bison reference out there. Maybe we won't go into the topic of buffaloes and how they run today.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a depressing topic around Boulder these days.
I said let's not. But if you look at the before and after of a guy like Chrysler, for example, is roughly he's taken off some pounds, but Zy Chrysler, he's still in the 340 range, but he looks a lot different, and if you've seen those pictures, the picture with Jordan Seaton with his shirt off, my God, he's 305 and looks like a bodybuilder, for Christ's sakes,
Yeah.
So at least on that offensive line, those guys have really bought in and made some difference in how their bodies look, and they're getting a lot of work done. I think they're one of the things about the strength and conditioning staff is they end up kind of being the ones that set the tone for your program, because they're the ones that see them the most all year long, and so there's good camaraderie on this team. There's good teamwork. There's good leadership. There's hard work. There's competition like nobody's business. So I think that let me see what the question was here, was impressions. Well, I don't know. I guess that's my impressions. I'm pretty impressed so far.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty certain Coach Prime said at media days, Big 12 media days, that they had no hamstring injuries through all that training. That's pretty impressive when you watch some of the stuff they were doing this summer.
Well, it is and it's not. To me, as a strength and conditioning coach, that should be the norm, because hamstring injuries are lack of conditioning and lack of proper conditioning and lack of flexibility. And that if you're getting hamstring injuries, your strength and conditioning coach ought to be out the window. So to me, that's just like, it's like, the standard. That's like the basic standard to me. But it also is a good indicator that your staff is doing a good job and doing it right, So I guess that's not fair, So I guess it is an indicator of a very solid, very good strength conditioning coach. But to me, as a strength conditioning coach, it's kind of like coaching special teams. No special teams unit I ever coached ever gave up a long return ever, because it's all fundamentals. You teach the fundamentals right, and the things work right, So you do your strength and conditioning and your flexibility and all those things correctly, and you're not going to get hamstring injuries. And so, and I think you cut down on knee injuries significantly as well, because you work on the flexibility of those joints and the strength of the muscles that support them or whatever. So I think, again, until we get out against other teams and see whether we're dominant at the end of the fourth quarter, see if we avoid injuries and things like that, all returns so far to me are fantastic. But, we don't have the final voting yet, if you follow what I mean.
Yeah. Buff Ticket asked, how can Coach keep the excitement going from the past two seasons? There's only one word that has to be said here. I'm going to let you say it.
Well, I was going to say, come back to Boulder. Done. Okay, next.
Oh, I was going to say win. Just keep winning.
Well, win
football games, yeah.
But Coach Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, hands out excitement like candy from his pocket, man, because that's his personality. That's who he is. You can't listen to him for any length of time and not get inspired and motivated and excited, So all we need for excitement this year is Coach Prime to still be there, and everybody's going to, because it's going to be like season one again, right? Because everybody's going to come back this year to see if the experiment works now that Shedeur and Travis are gone. So I think we're going to be in the eye of the storm, right in the eye of the media right from day one. So, get out there and win that first Georgia Tech game, man. And we might start seeing the Saturday game shows in Boulder again. So I think that's all. Win is the obvious answer. But I think that just having Coach Prime back and healthy is the key. There's going to be excitement around the program as long as you got Deion Sanders in the room.
Right. Yeah. Ryan BR asked, who is someone on both sides of the ball that we are not talking about that could surprise Darian Camp? I'll let you lead off here.
Quincy Wiggins. And I think as we were talking about that earlier in this podcast, that's the one that jumped out to me is that guy's got first round talent. If it ever explodes, if he ever gets the box open and it comes out, you're going to be like, where the hell has this guy been? So I think that's the first one that leaps to mind to me. Who you got?
Well, I had a bunch of names. It's tough to narrow it down to one, but if I had to give you one on offense, I'm going to go Hakeem Williams, former 5-star, 6'2", 215. He didn't live up to that 5-star hype at Florida State, but he did catch 21 balls as a true freshman and sophomore. If it comes together for him, he was kind of late to getting into football. He was a swimmer and a basketball player growing up. If he catches the fever to really match his potential, he's a guy that could be better than, because we haven't talked about Hakeem Williams, which is crazy given what his credentials were coming out of high school.
And another guy along those exact same lines on the opposite end of the field is Noah King.
Right,
super high rated. Played his first year at Kansas State, didn't do a whole lot in that season, but he's still just a redshirt freshman.
He was actually only there for a semester, so he was just on campus this spring. Right. Yeah.
So, you take a guy with his talent playing for a guy like Deion Sanders, Noah King could be a guy, his ceiling is such that he could be a starter, and it wouldn't shock me because he's got that much talent. So that's a guy that's kind of been left out in our discussions all summer long because there's other obvious guys ahead of him. Now, he may be too young and that may not happen, but we're talking about guys that are not being talked about who could surprise, right?
Right, and so, exactly.
I'll give you two on the offensive line that nobody's talking about, and that's Andre Roy and Cooper Lovelace. And
Philip Houston, too? Hakee Ogunbiyi. I mean, there's a lot of guys on the O-line.
I feel like we've talked a lot about Philip Houston, and I've sung his praises and raved about him. But Hakee Ogunbiyi is another one, and he did some good things at A&M. And Andre Roy started 7 games at tackle in the Big Ten last year. And Cooper Lovelace started 7 games at every position in the Big Ten last year, And so it's kind of funny to me. We got these guys who are starters against teams like Michigan and Ohio State and whatever, and we're just like, huh? Those guys play for us now? So that just shows you the amount of talent we've brought in this year. So, I mean, that's a few names. I don't know if there's anybody else you can think of.
Defensively, the first name that came to mind was linebacker Sean Myers, just because of some of the question marks at that position.
Absolutely.
Certainly a big jump up from North Alabama, but this could be a guy that could be a starter for Colorado this year. That wouldn't shock me.
Right, and his production where he was before was fantastic at that linebacker spot, and he's a thumper. So, that's a great one. Because we're just everybody just writing in Martavius French and Reginald Hughes, but Sean Myers is a great guy to mention at that in this context. I
also had Tyrekus Davis and Tion Parks mentioned as somebody that both guys could push R.J. Johnson for that starting job.
Right, for sure. Because both of them had really good production where they came from before. So I think, and that gets down to what we talked about. We started this thing about any last thoughts on the top 40, and like I said, it's like there's guys that didn't make our top 40. They're going to come out and be damn good players this year.
Yeah. Buff Bosco asked, with the new additions and more buffs in the system another year, who is the fastest, biggest, strongest? Who would you speculate will be wearing an L, and who will be wearing a D this season? Thanks.
Let's go one at a time. Who you got for the fastest? I'll leave that one to you.
Well, if Cam Michael is improved, or if Cam Michael has gotten back to what he was in high school, then I think he's the fastest player on the team. You got I mean, he's fast. I don't know if he's got quite that track speed. What did Draylon have some track times in high school? I can look that up. Is that who you went with? Who you thought?
I didn't answer that damn question because who do I look at? Little dudes or big dudes? I don't know why you asked me these questions, man. See, I was going to go back and revisit this about all the talent we had in the guys not in the top 40 are going to play and revisit my assertion that that's why kickers don't belong in the top 40. But I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, Jaylen, we don't have track times on him. He was a really good basketball player.
Yeah.
They're in high school at Silsbee.
I think wasn't he out there running a race against somebody? I don't know. There was some race earlier this year and whatever. I don't know.
All right, biggest. You can handle this one.
Biggest got to be Zy Chrysler, I would think.
Inquin Barnes is up there too.
Yeah, but I mean, Zy Chrysler kind of came in at like 360, and I think he got himself down to 340. I think Barnes and Otis are both in the 330 range. So what's 10 or 15 pounds on guys that size is probably whether they had a pizza the night before or not. But Zy Chrysler for sure, I think is probably the biggest guy out there. I'm just looking at this. Larry Johnson probably would be
he's up
one.
there. Yeah,
6'7",
big dude.
But yeah, and then Jaheim Otis and Inquin Barnes, I would say those four guys were probably the biggest guys on the team.
Tyler Brown was the strongest last year. We haven't seen some of the leaderboard stuff this summer. That was something that when you would get some more of those pictures in the past when they had their full behind the scenes media team in Boulder through the summer. Do you think anybody surpassed Tyler Brown in the weight room?
I would be surprised. I think Tyler Brown's got just natural massive strength, and so I would be surprised if anybody's passed him up. I haven't heard a lot about what some of the new linemen are doing in terms of their lifting and stuff, but he'd be the strongest to me by far. I think, and nobody else really sort of jumps out at me as being. I think all across both lines and edge players and tight ends, we've got some really strong guys. I don't know which ones really stand out anymore. I mean, I tend to be a person that's strength for its own sake is not something I follow that much because explosive power is more important in this game. So guys that are just, I don't worry so much about just the natural strength. And so I think in terms of if we look on that basis, explosive power, Amari McNeil, man, he is that's why he can do so much more and not be as big as Barnes and Otis, but Otis for sure is another one with that sort of explosive power. Just looking at the offensive line guys, again, I think Xavier Hill probably is right up there in terms of strength.
He also wanted to know who might wear a D or an L on their jersey this season. They have not done captains under Coach Prime. They go with the designation of dogs and leaders. Jordan Seaton, is he more of a dog or a leader? I mean, I feel like you could put both those patches on his shoulder.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know exactly what the criteria are for Coach Prime for either one of those. I mean, I know what they mean in my head, but I think he'd probably be more of an L, and I think Arden Walker got to wear an L.
Yes.
I think Amari McNeil's a dog. He's a D for sure because
he was the first guy on my list too. Yep.
Yeah, because that dude just only knows one speed.
Martavius French is a dog.
Yeah, for sure. Keaton Wade. When you get that much production out of the number of snaps he had, he's clearly a dog. So
DJ McKinney as a corner might be a dog.
Yeah, I think he and Preston Hodge and Carter Stoutmeyer are all leader types, in that secondary. Somebody's got to step up and take that role over this year, and they could all be possibilities. And again, I would have to know how what each of those words means exactly to Coach Prime to think what he's going to do. Jordan Seaton's got to be one or the other. I mean, I think he's probably got an L. I mean, I think ultimately your quarterback's the leader of your offense, but Jordan Seaton is the leader of this offense, in many respects. So I don't know. I think
can we give Ben Finiseth? I mean, he would be in line for either of those.
Yeah. I think Savell Smalls is a dog to me because he just keeps after it and getting better. So it'll be interesting to see what I think. Given my definition of what a dog is, I think Yaya Ati is going to be one eventually. Don't know if it will be this year, but he's the kind of guy, you're going to have to pull him off of dudes at the whistle.
Michael Welch has been a dog since the second he got on campus.
Yeah.
But to get that designation, I think there is like a production element that goes into it as well. Now, obviously, all the guys we listed they're not going to give that many out.
And there also has to be, not to knock Michael Welch, is not necessarily his fault, but you got to stay injury free.
Yeah. Is Jaylen Miller, did you mention him? Is he more of a dog or a leader? He's one of those guys that could go either way too.
He and Omari and Miller, I think, would both be dog types. I don't know. They're different. I think they're altogether different. Well, which one would you call Travis Hunter?
Well, he got the dog designation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
I would go with that even if they hadn't. Yeah. If you put a gun to my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I would say about either of the Millers.
But Arden Walker, that's the most surefire thing for an L.
Yeah.
Jordan Seaton will have one or the other for sure.
Mari McNeil.
Yeah. DJ McKinney, you're really trying to, highlight those guys that have made a big impact on your program.
And if you give it to too many guys, it loses meaning.
Right. Yeah. Well, there were a couple staff roster and injury questions. We should have more information on that here in the coming days. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that we're going to get a chance to talk to Coach Prime on Monday in the Champion Center. Looking forward to that. And we've got some other interview opportunities, it sounds like, this week during the first week of camp. So really just ready to get back to work. Do you have any final thoughts with the Buff set to begin their third preseason camp under Coach Prime?
I think it was a good off season, all things considered. Lots of positives, no real negatives that I can recall off the top of my head. I think we continue to be along the same track that Coach Prime has shown us his first 2 years. Bringing in more. It's unquestionable to me that we are a better roster now than we were at the end of the season. So he's brought in a lot of players and a lot of talent. I think he continues to do that every year. And again, I go back to what I keep saying, every year, is that Coach Prime learns lessons, man. He nothing happens to Deion Sanders that he doesn't take that and learn something from it, right? So when things don't work last year, for example, he's going to make changes and make them better. And so I think we'll be a better team than last year, regardless of who we lost to the draft. Because that's the nature of what Coach Prime does, and I don't know. I don't know what he'll have to do before the doubting stops.
I think this year would do it for most people, but there are always going to be haters out there, man. You just I've had to accept that now here going into year 3 that you're just going to have those people out there doing shady stuff, covering this program or talking about it, and because it gets clicks.
And I got to tell you, I'm a 60-year-old dude, and I can still hope to learn and be a better person. And quite frankly, what Deion Sanders means to me is a role model for me. Even though he's a couple years younger than me, I want to be more like him, and take the negative and handle it with a smile and move on, and let people have their negativity and their hate, and we're just going to do what we're going to do, and let them fester in whatever they got to fester in, and everybody else going to get on board because we're doing the right thing and we're winning, and I think, we went through yet another off season with no problems, no off-field stuff, no real drama, not some made up crap like they do every year. But not only does Coach Prime put a winning product out there on the field, but he does it the right way, and he does it with class, and our players play with class, and they go to school and they work hard. So I don't know, man. I'm just increasingly, I'm trying to think of the right word to say. I'm a Deion Sanders fan. Doesn't really.
He inspires you, maybe, is a good word.
He inspires me. He's a role model. I love the guy, man. I love the guy, and I ain't even ever met him in person. So, maybe one of these days, my good friend Adam will give me an introduction to the legend.
Yeah, well, Coach Prime and I aren't exactly hip and hip, but I really am looking forward to getting in the press conference with him tomorrow and just allowing him to, put a lot of just this outside noise to rest by being able to explain everything that's been going on. And it's been a real fun ride covering this program under his direction. And so much of the frustrating parts of this coverage have not had anything to do with anybody in Boulder. It's been having to refute just erroneous rumors or deal with some of the drama that goes on. So, the football part is always the part that we focus on. And I think that's why a lot of the people that are loyal to our podcast really enjoy that. We'll bring up things that are controversial or are clickbaity, but we're gonna move on quickly back to the football stuff.
Yeah, and I think Coach Prime will reveal whatever he wants to reveal, but I think when people find out what he's been going through this year, he's a hell of a person. He just really is.
Yeah. So we're going to get that on Monday, and we've got football, and hopefully we can recap the first week of camp next week.
Yeah, it'll be fun to finally be able to talk about actual football, and something that actually happened. So it's fun to get back to this point in the season. I'm kind of amused because I know 3 weeks from now we'll be like, we're so bored with camp.
Yeah, no, it only takes a couple weeks, and then you hit that point. But then
hopefully they give us a practice in Denver again, because I think that was fantastic. I think that was great for everybody, and it was good for the program. And so we'll see what happens. I think you never know what you're going to get from Coach Prime, but it's always going to be fun.
Yep. Looking forward to it, William. It was a lot of fun this whole offseason. We've been doing this for over a decade, chatting about the Buffs. And I feel like this offseason leading up to camp has been one of the more fun times of just talking about all the depth on this roster.
Yeah, there have been a lot of off seasons where by the time we get to this point, we're like, wow, man.
No, I feel like we could do another couple shows, man. Like
I know, right?
It's crazy. Yeah.
So it is a lot more fun, and to be able to do it when there's so much positive going on in the program, and I hope that what people took from our podcast this summer, is that there's a lot to be positive about. I think we were honest about the shortcomings and the question marks.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot of shortcomings. I think there's some significant question marks. And again, I guess I'll finish out. My biggest question mark is still Shermer, and then after that, what's the play calling, and then the linebacker position a little bit. But there ain't many teams out there that don't have question marks, and those teams are all in the top 10. Okay, so we'll see whether those question marks get answered. I really honestly believe that we're an 8 or 9 win team this year, if not better. But sometimes things have to come together for that to happen too. But I just really feel like this is going to be another exciting year for Buff fans. So get on out there and don't drink the goose juice, drink the Kool-Aid.
Goose juice. I like it. All right, everybody. Appreciate you for tuning in. Stay tuned to BuffStampede.com as we get into preseason camp. Pay attention to our YouTube channel. William and I are going to be coming back hopefully on a weekly basis here going forward, and we're getting closer. So this is an exciting time. Again, I appreciate everybody out there for tuning in.